Wait until I start doing noise with Ivan from my bed. The day is coming. It's a new year. Um, Happy New Year's, everyone. We've got a new noise with Ivan for you. It's not ready, but I'm about to record it. Go ahead and roll the intro. I was just listening to DJ Self Isolation and Hannah Haruna, which was hard. It was really good. It's unfortunate, but I don't listen to a lot of kind of modern harsh noise walls that are that like that harsh. Like a lot of them are like kind of like, very very Allion, very particular, exact, ambient, kind of chill. Um, and that's the kind of way I've gotten to. I just mentioned I've been very sleepy. Um, and just to get in the bubble bath and put on a release like, oh goodness, there was something I listened to recently that was just a complete bubble bath release. It would have been perfect. Burial Garden in Allion, yeah. That split is like get in the bubble bath, put it on, just put your Audio Technica headphones on, in the bathtub, just relax, listen to that one, you're in a whole nother world. It's fantastic. And that's the noise scene as it is today. Um, you know, I kind of like it. Um, I noticed that this happened probably a while ago. I'm really happy about it. But I noticed that Renamon passed up Decrescendo by Giro Gary Gege on the top 10 harsh noise wall sort of like ranking thing that Rate Your Music has. I'm not saying that their ranking system at all is really like on it or reflects my opinions or my views. And I don't necessarily even think that Such Sweet Sorrow is the best Silver Dove release, but it's very good, and it's really good to see that it's not it's we're able to have a little bit more diversity in that. I think modern artists and the real nerds, I mean the real guys, and you notice Silver Dove is just someone who's active on that platform, someone. And that, by the way, I don't think he touches his own. He doesn't even upload his own albums. I don't think he uploads other people's albums. And I realized that he was doing that and reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm actually the guy who does Burial Garden." And Burial Garden was the very first CD that I made for Gates of Hypnos before we did Not of the Flesh. It was very, very good. And that was my introduction to harsh noise walls in general, Burial Garden and Satyr Rituals. So yeah. So that's kind of been where I've been lately. I've been thinking about that stuff. That release is on Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil Union. Kind of got to be a little bit of a Digimon nerd to know what Yggdrasil is, but that's why it's under the name Renamon as opposed. I think that's why it's under the name Renamon as opposed to Silver Dove. It's because it's on that label, which is cool. I'm glad that they have a Digimon themed label. It's pretty neat. But yeah, anime has got a big, or and I suppose in that it's maybe a little bit more manga themed, but anime has got a big pull on some of the ambient noise wall stuff that's going on. Um, yeah, there's all kinds of you've got Dragon Wall, all kinds of themed stuff. That's really cool. I appreciate that about the modern spectrum of harsh noise walls. But yeah, again, it's like there are so many things that are really fantastic in the genre, and there are so many artists that um are doing cool, interesting new things, and we're kind of I think that music nerds in general like to have good taste. So they like to go, and I know this because of myself. We like to be like, oh, I like just the best stuff, the very best stuff by some standard of experimentation and things like that. So I have one or two albums for each subgenre of any genre. I have one or two, well, let's say I have one or two noise releases that I like. I have one or two metal like releases that I like, one or two pop releases, rock and roll, like Magma and them, what are they called? Prog. And I don't know if I want to be against that. I mean, but I feel like that's not a music nerd thing. That's a regular person thing. I feel like we should all have a few metal bands that we like, and no, it shouldn't be Metallica and Anthrax. You should maybe have a little bit more taste than that. You should have some noise stuff that you like and some ambient stuff. I'm sure everybody listens to Eno and boy, I can't remember that one guy's name. A lot of people listen to a lot of things. But I think when you're a nerd, you have to like your what's in your wheelhouse. I think you have to like something specific, but then there's only a handful of bands that are very particular to their genre. And that's I think what artists the same trap that artists fall into is just the same as listeners is that you say, "Oh, well, this genre does not define me." When really the best artists are the ones that go, "I like harsh noise walls or noise walls. I like ambient noise walls, something like that." And they stick with it and they master it. They do a really good job doing the thing that they want to do. I have never been that person. I've always been, what I just criticized a moment ago. Um, but all the people that all the artists that I go to as of the last few months are all harsh noise wall and ambient noise wall. I don't want a lot of noises. Right. I just want to listen to one noise, one sound for a while. I really like listening to sound and focusing on sound. And I've learned that about myself, and I think my listenership has has moved forward because I focus on one genre. But I think that, you know, the Japanese noise from the 80s and 90s kind of dominating, which I mean, I suppose the decrescendo was 2018, 2019, something like that. Granted, is that a noise album or just an experimental album? I don't know. I don't, I don't know. But then is Such Sweet Sorrow really a harsh noise wall? Are all ambient noise walls harsh noise walls? Is that a subgenre of harsh noise or a microgenre of the subgenre that is harsh noise wall? I don't know. But that's what makes those kind of top 10 rankings a little much anyway. You can't marginalize stuff like that. It just doesn't work. But I, kn- I have had a Silver Dove phase. They did a release on Gates of Hypnos right after I did the last episode of Noise with Ivan. I went to listen. to something new came out on Gates of Hypnos, and it was amazing. I think I listened to the Oleon Burial Garden split around the same time, but Oleon, Silver Dove, Angel Brugger, and oh gosh, was it Seder Rituals? I may have to look it up, but that was really really good. That was, I mean, four walls from those guys. Hey, I had a good time. I think I listened to that in the bubble bath or something. Yeah, that was a really great split or four way. Maybe I've just gotten so relaxed to the point where that's what I want to listen to. Just put them noise walls on. And it's kind of what I want to make too. I haven't really been making much of anything, but I've been messing with noise walls just because I like it so much as of right now. And that's what Source turned into. I did the um physical only harsh noise walls and improv series, and most of that was walls, and I made a bunch of them. I should make some more because I still have, I think, sleeves for some new ones ready. And that's what that turned into. That's what Source turned into, was a harsh noise wall thing. So, I still have my outlet if I want to make some. But why would you make them when you can listen to them? There's so many that I haven't listened to, even by my favorite artists. You know, I don't know if there's any Sado rituals that I have yet to listen to, but there's certainly ones I'm not familiar with, even if I did listen to them. But yeah, that there's such sweet sorrow. That's a good release. Um, but again, it's not like you're getting the best of the best. The Rita release, um, Lurker, you got to give me a break here. Um, Lake Depths Lurker, I didn't like that at all. I mean, it's a harsh noise wall, but so I like that, but it's like, whew, I put that thing on and it was just, there was no tone whatsoever. It was very dull, just over, the whole thing was clipped out, and I was like, I can't appreciate that very much. And a lot of people just, the whole thing's clipping, and you're like, what? The whole reason I'm here is to hear tone, and there's no tone. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's an artistic element to having something where you've just completely destroyed everything that's in there to listen to. But as a person who is trying to critically analyze it, what do you want me to say? Um, and that goes to what it is to mix. I've done some mixing, and I don't always know just what to think of these projects. How do you make this good or better? But a lot of artists really insist on clipping. I don't care for it. It can be harsh, but I think you get harshness from an overwhelming amount of tone. You don't get it from being so loud that all the tone goes away. I think tone is beneficial, not it's tone isn't gonna ruin it. What you put into the doll, like when I listen to noise on my computer, let's say, I usually am not gonna turn it all the way up. You know what I mean? And most people aren't. Well, I suppose on Bandcamp, when they download your file, they're going to download a WAV file. But most people are going to get a compressed version of that anyway. So I don't know. Uh, releases like that just make me wonder what the artists wants us to get from it. And I haven't listened to the Cherry Point honestly since I first got into to noise. I would have been like 18 the last time I listened to Cherry Point. I'm sorry, but yeah, that tells you how much. Like I just started getting into Silver Dove, and evidently he's got the number one thing for I don't know how long that's been there, which is kind of funny. Um, but I was saying in the last episode that he's kind of mainstream. That I usually only listen to stuff that's in my camp. Yet, being associated with Gates of Hypnos, I don't know who could be more in my camp than that. I mean, very, very, very closely knit, but closely knit with a lot of people. Just an active person in the harsh noise wall community or the wall community, um, in general. So anyway, I'm very, very happy to see that. Um, but I also at the same time those top 10 lists there are not probably super reliable. Again, I will further emphasize that release is great. I really love it. I really like the Rita. I really like most noise. Not like Depth Lurker, though. Yeah, it's not to say there's anything wrong with releases that are clipping. You can use that artistically. I think a lot of artists that use a lot of clipping also use a lot of other stuff. They've got one track that's clipping, and then they have a few that are softer, so that you have the tone of tonelessness, and then also tone, so that there's something to listen to. So, I don't know. It's a really cool thing that noise walls are changing, that people are developing style, that it's gone from the nothingness that it started out as when noise walls started out. The whole point was there not to be anything, and we have figured out a way to make to make endless tone, 30 minutes of the same thing be one of the most complex genres, right? One of the most interesting genres to listen to. It's absolutely amazing how much the art form has grown. I want to see that represented when I go and look for the stuff. If somebody's interested in harsh noise walls, they go to look for harsh noise walls, and they only get stuff that came out a long time ago or stuff from those few artists of the same style. It doesn't. There's so much more to explore, and having an artist like Silver Dove there, or or just some of these guys. I mean, I could say the same thing about Hannah Haruna, or Sado Rituals. Like these artists are fantastic, especially Alion. I feel like Alion. It took me forever to learn about artists like these guys, and these are the kind of guys I want to. I think are actually say something for the genre. So, but I think if you were to look up harsh noise walls and try to learn about what should I be listening to, what should I try out, you're not gonna probably get those guys. Those guys aren't mentioned. The scent of the garland that transpires therein. This is very classic, but it's also tone filled. That's an album that I like for that reason, and I think Impermanence is an artist that follows a classic harsh noise wall feel pretty consistently. So if you don't want something that's bifurcated, as in you have kind of that open feeling to the noise wall, if you don't like ambient noise wall, if you don't want like field recordings and your noise walls, just kind of like you're getting with Silver Dove and artists like this, but you don't necessarily want those top 10 artists. Impermanence really gets that, especially with this release. It's a usually kind of a full band noise wall. This release specifically starts out ambient noise wall, but not ambient and noise wall. It is just a softer noise wall. Not probably bifurcated a little bit, but not incredibly so. It kind of leans full band at least. And then the second one is completely harsh noise, so you get the boom boom. Um, I also think that Kubatu Asparagus is one of the more classic noise wall artists. Just these avalanches, just these avalanches. I don't listen to him nearly enough, but he's one of my favorites. I have a fat stack of Kubatu Asparagus releases, and also Janky Funeral. But yeah, he's like a go-to for harsh noise walls if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more classic. And then for classic ambient noise walls as opposed to harsh noise walls, Impermanence is probably in the middle of Kubatu Asparagus and Sebastian Tomb. Sebastian Tomb is very but I will say Sebastian Tomb hardly releases anything. Big fan, but not a whole lot of stuff coming from him. He is very good with classic ambient noise walls. Not to say he doesn't do any harsh noise walls. Not to say Kubatu Asparagus doesn't do ambient, but nothing is jumping out at me um, when I think about his discography. But yeah, there's a whole lot to be listened to. There's more complicated things. I would say that Silver Dove and Allion definitely are the more complicated noise wallers. Yet Silver Dove is one who uses a lot of field recordings and synth. Allion is fairly traditional, but that you don't get traditional when you listen to him. It doesn't feel traditional just because it's such a complex arrangement that he uses. Yeah, those other guys are very Kubatu Asparagus is very classic. He really does carry that timeless structure about his stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you like ambient noise walls or harsh noise walls? Do you like them bifurcated or not? Or split, do you like them split band? Split band is a better way to say it probably, where you don't have mid-range noise in there. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I even like, but I like all that stuff. I've gotten to a point. But I think that's what's nice about that four-way split. You get a little bit of everything. You go from you might go from split band to uh full band to maybe just like a high mid band with some field recordings and things like that, or and then just a complete harsh noise wall. There's a lot of cool things to be done. But yeah, that I really needed that DJ self-isolation Hannah Haruna. And you don't expect it to be so daggum harsh because it's a girl drinking tea on the cover. But it bites. It bites real good. Thank you so much for joining me for Noise with Ivan. I was kind of brief, kind of quick here, but I just wanted to talk about what I've been listening to lately and how I feel lately. It's a very expressive episode. Um, Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to listen to all the artists mentioned if you are interested. Be sure to check out Not of the Flesh for CDR releases. We still have I think all the fancy stuff in stock. There's a couple items that are only have one left. Um, and yeah, that's that. That's that. Godspeed. Have a wonderful day, and yeah, I'll see you next week.